What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Release Valve. I am your host, Sean Hanlon, and I am extremely blessed and grateful to have another guest with me here today. She is a certified life, career, and purpose coach, a professional and personal development strategist, and the founder of JJ1 Professional Coaching. It is my pleasure to introduce Jessica Jone to the podcast. Welcome to The Release Valve, Jessica.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a complete honor to be here with you.
I appreciate that. Again, as we were saying before we started recording, I've been following your content for a while. I'm a big fan. So I was very excited when you reached out with interest on coming on. So thank you for being here with me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what led you to becoming a coach.
Well, I am, like you said, a certified life coach and the founder of JJ1 Professional Coaching. I focus in on those moments where everything feels like it's all shifting at once. Career change, grief and loss, even those pivotal young adult years where, direction matters most. My approach is a little different in that I know that life happens, it doesn't happen in categories. So I work with, or I work what I call a pattern translator. I help clients see what they can't recognize because everything is right here. And so I turn those patterns that they've created, whether on purpose or my mistake, I make those into next steps. And my own life, that's the type of help I needed. And that's what led me to becoming a coach, is just finding my way through and almost like forcing things. And, we all make mistakes and learning from them. And life coaching helps me take those experiences and help others to avoid maybe some of those missteps.
I love that. I love that. And that's a huge reason why this podcast got started too. We were having conversations with different people about different things, and I noticed a common pattern with a lot of people is that hence the name, the release valve. A lot of people needed to release things that they've had going on, whether it was in the past or present, and even release worries about the future. People needed to be able to open up. And the more I was having those conversations, I was like, there needs to be a platform. I mean, not that there's not probably millions of platforms like this, but as far as the people that I know, I was seeing that people need that like I said, that platform to be able to release, to be able to open themselves up, that safe space is the
Yes.
phrase I was looking for, to be able to open up and be vulnerable. As we were saying before we started recording, you have two sons, and you're finding common things with type of the stuff that we talk about on here, the same things that you're saying to your boys.
Yeah.
And the more that we are having these conversations, the more that we're hearing these conversations, the more that we're realizing not just things about other people, but things about ourselves too, right?
Right. Exactly. It's when you're able to say things out loud, like you said, in a safe space, sometimes you get to hear what that sounds like. And that thing of, if you can see the example, then you can be it. Sometimes it's also, if you can say it, you can then dream it. And then, it doesn't sound as crazy as they say. It doesn't, it
Right.
sounds real so just being able to say it, then you can maybe write it down, and then we can make steps. And, I don't know, I maybe you didn't do this, but as a little girl, get a crush on a boy and you start writing your name.
Yeah.
His last name, my first name, and oh, that seems so good. Or put two pictures together and you can see it. So there's just something about being able to hear, see, say all those things that empowers you to make that become a real next step, or real next thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that you've taken your own personal experiences with life and realized that other people, if it matters to me, then it must matter to other people too. They must be
Yes.
going through similar things, if not the exact same thing. So like you said, you're being somebody that you could have used when you were younger. And I think
Right.
that's such a huge thing, especially as a parent. you gain a better understanding of what it is that your kids are going through, and finding out those ways that you can be there for them. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact same as
Yeah.
what you needed when you were younger. Times change, people are different. These younger generations are a lot different than we were, but a lot of things, who we are in our core, is the same. And sometimes you
Right.
just need that little bit of support or encouragement, or again, being able to, pun intended, hit that release valve and be
Yeah.
able to open up about things. And so being somebody that you could have used when you were a kid,
Yeah.
I absolutely love that as your core reason for why you do what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I I had someone tell me I needed to focus in on one part of life coaching, but that isn't how it would have helped me. I would
Mm,
have loved to have somebody when I was 15 to help me talk through all my wild ideas and all the, very practical ideas, and help me find that happy medium to then
mm,
decide what would be next for me, and help talk me out of being afraid of going to college, afraid of going away from my family, and all those
mm.
little thoughts that we have, having someone be able to just kind of go, okay, say it. And then, okay, what will happen? And realize, well, nothing, because
Right.
if you never act on those fears, nothing will happen. It's
Yeah.
just a thought. It's as equal to having, I'm going to be the next female president, to, you know, I'm going to do a triple round off backflip, whatever,
Right.
something,
Right.
something,
Yeah.
both are just not in my wheelhouse or in my desire, but I can say it in the safe space, and, and go,
Mm.
okay, wait. There's something in between that you can do and be and see and say and all those things. And that's where I would have been grateful to have someone to help me go, no, you're not good at that. And
Right.
having two boys, and they were very, very different. My youngest knew exactly what he wanted to be when he was 5, and in 5th grade he knew exactly what school he was going to go to get it. And both of those things, 100% true, and that's what he's doing. My
Wow.
oldest, much like me, he went to college, but changed his major. He
Mm.
declared 4 different majors and was sure every single time that that's what he was going to do. And I eventually had to like pull him aside, because he is very much like me, and I've always known that. I just kind of looked at him. I said, "You're not going to be good at that. Like, stop it."
Right.
And then we had the very real conversation of what he can do, what he's good at. And sometimes we need an outside source to stop us and go, I see this. Why don't you see this? And then have that conversation, because you have a blind eye to what you, and a strong resistance to what you should just be doing. And you are doing already. You just don't want to make it your forever thing, because you just don't
Mm.
recognize that as your innate talent. My son had an
Yeah.
innate talent for being curious about why people behave certain ways, psychology. But he heard so many times from so many people, teachers, counselors, all these people that would say, psychology is not a serious degree. You've got to go get, something more. And I'm like, a degree is a degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if
Right.
you're really good at it and you really want to go get it.
Mm.
And so he took an intro class, and everything, he couldn't stop talking about it. He fell in love with it, and he's really good at it. And so, he went on to do all the things that he wanted to do with that degree. And I'm, of course, 100% proud of both my boys.
Mm.
But even my parenting had to be different. I'm the same parent, but the way I do it has to be different, because life, like I said, doesn't happen in categories.
Mm.
But I had to be ready to parent 2 very different kids, because my youngest son only applied to one school. And I was the one who was so scared and nervous, and, well, what if his dream doesn't come true?
Right.
What will we do? And oh my gosh, and and it happened. And then what if he doesn't get a job? What if, all the, and
Right.
then it happened. And I'm going, I don't even, this is not familiar to me.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know how to, parent this kind of child that just, this is what I want. I'm
Go.
going to go get it. And,
Yeah.
steadfast on it. And I'm okay. All right. So being flexible, even in my parent abilities, and even just flexible in my life, I think is what prepared me to have these children because there's no mistakes, right?
Right. No, no such thing as a coincidence. Everything
Right,
happens the way
right.
that it's supposed to. I absolutely love that. I can only imagine what it's like having a child. My kids are young, 11 and 8, so I got some time before
Yeah.
those type of things really happen. But I
It
love the
comes
fact that,
faster than you think.
oh, I know my baby just turned 8, and it's one of those things like, when did this happen? When did you
Yeah.
turn 8? You were 3 like 2 days
Yeah.
ago. Like, what is going
Or when
on
they
here?
hit the double digits, you're two whole hands. What do you
Right.
mean?
Right, right. But I love the fact, and it's spoken from a true mom,
Yeah.
the stereotypical worrier of the family, what if this, what
Yes.
if that,
Yeah.
but is my baby going to be okay?
Yes.
And it's so cool that, again, being at such a young age, and with some people, that's what it is. They know
Hmm.
what they want to do. They're going to go full
Hmm.
steam ahead, and there's nothing that anyone or anything can do or say that's going to deter them from that. And
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of that because I was such the, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. And kudos to my parents in a lot of ways. They allowed me to kind of explore a lot of
Hmm.
different things, like, figure it out. You're just a kid. Like, you
Yeah.
don't need to have this all figured out right here, right now. Take some time, try this out, see how that goes. If you don't like it, try something else.
Hmm.
As I got older, it was just kind of a, yeah, go ahead and you'll figure it out as you go.
Hmm.
I want to say I really started having the thought of, I want to pursue this in my
Hmm.
life when it came to podcasting, and hopefully in turn, kind of going hand in hand with it, becoming some sort of a transformational coach or a public
Hmm.
speaker along the same lines, going over these type of things that we discuss here on the podcast. That all came, I'm almost 40 now, I would say 35, 36.
Hmm.
I started having that, like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I have that feeling of, man, I wish I would have had this thought process, this mindset when I was like 18, 19, 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
How much further would I be? How much more successful would I be if I had that mindset back then? But again, as we were just saying, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything happens the way that
No.
it's supposed to. I didn't have the knowledge, the experience that I have now back
Hmm.
then. And the only
Hmm.
way that I would have got that is to go through the things that I went through in life, to be able
You
to
had to
speak
let
from
out that energy.
experience. Right,
You've had
exactly.
little ones, and you know what that's like when you try to bottle up energy. It's
Right.
gonna pop soon.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you let out some of that energy, which is what you did, and you explored and you tried on different hats, so to speak,
Mm.
and you knew exactly, nope, don't want that, nope, don't want that. Three bears. That this fits just right,
Right, right,
and this will turn into something else. That's the journey. That's the life journey that we all want,
mm,
is for every experience we get, we add it to our book, right? And we keep going and
right.
we keep. I used to always talk about a toolkit that I had, and I thought it was just this funny little quip that would let them remember me in an interview, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? And so
Right.
I have all these things in my toolbox. I did this and I did that and blah blah blah, and it allowed me to feel comfortable with showing off in an interview,
Mm,
because in my culture growing up, you're not supposed to be this boisterous and look at me, I'm doing all the things, you have to be a little reserved, right? But
mm,
if I have a toolbox and I'm showing you my toolbox, I'm not showing off, I'm just showing you. So, but in that statement is how I even came to being well, one of the reasons how I came to being a life coach. I had collected all these experiences in different industries, in for my professional side of my toolbox. My personal side of my toolbox, the reason why I also offer some grief and loss coaching is because I've lost my daughter. And that's the loudest grief anybody can go through, is when you lose a loved one, whether it's your own child, whether it's a parent or a grandparent. When you lose somebody you love, when you lose a love, that's, such a hard thing to cope with. But now do that, and now be a mom, be a professional, be a friend, be a neighbor.
Still show up in all these other areas.
Yes. So my grief and loss isn't just about the loss of a loved one, it's a loss of a job. Because you still have to show up as the wife, as the neighbor, as the friend, as the mom,
Right.
when you're worried about what happened to your job, or if you've lost a role. When you break up with somebody, you're no longer a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a wife, or we just broke a friendship up. Now I don't have a best friend. Like, what do I do now? So all these losses, it happens in your life, and it's the totality of who you are, and you want that to mean something, right?
Right,
You
right.
don't want it. I think often we're told, put that aside, put that over there. Now go do this. Now
Yeah,
go do
just keep
that.
going.
And we don't know what to do that first day you go back to work. We don't know what to do that first time you run into that, the friend of the friend, you know.
Right.
When I lost my daughter, she had a congenital heart defect, and we were living in LA because we couldn't stay on Guam which is where I'm originally from. We couldn't stay on Guam for her care because there is no care. So we left our island and we went to go live in LA to receive the care that she needed. Well, she passed while we were there. And, the first thing I thought about is, how am I going to look at my husband? How am I going to, look at my children and explain? Because when I left, the last thing they knew is, I'm going to go have your sister and I'll bring her home. And, not really, even in myself, and I'm supposed to be the parent, I didn't realize that her condition would be a very long journey before we would ever go home. I felt like I was just going to get a little checkup and then go home. And at least, I was kind of crossing my fingers, but she had a big, big, big diagnosis, and it never sunk in because I didn't have anybody to help me process that grief and that loss. I knew she was sick from when I was pregnant with her. And anytime anybody asked me about that pregnancy, I just broke down into tears.
Yeah.
And we don't have a whole lot of mental health care on Guam. So the closest thing I could do is go to a therapist that didn't even have any specialty in grief. And really all she let me do was sit in her room, like in her waiting area, because she was so bombarded with appointments that she didn't really have a lot of time for me, but
Next.
knew it was
Next.
inevitable. Exactly. And so she said, if you need, just come and sit in the office and just get away from everybody. So she just provided me a safe haven when I couldn't even, I didn't really need to talk to her because while I was pregnant, I didn't know what I needed.
Right.
I didn't know how to say what I was feeling either. And she didn't know what to say because it wasn't her specialty. So
Yeah.
there were things that she could help me, talk through, but she also had a daughter who had a very heavy diagnosis. So she knew half of what she was saying. I couldn't hear her. And so, you need your personal experiences. You need all your ups and downs. And it feels like oh, I wasted so much time. I shouldn't have done that. I could easily say the same thing, with having gone through all these different industries within my career, all these different iterations of myself in my personal career. But
Right.
the total self is right here. I am now a life coach. I'm a mom of two grown adults, and I'm a wife of, this year will be 25 years,
Wow.
so not so bad.
That is That is so heavy. I can't tell you
Yeah,
how
sorry.
sorry I am. No, no, no. Please, I'm glad that you can open that up with me, and my
Yeah,
condolences to you and your family.
thank
I can
you.
only imagine how hard that must have been. But like you said, life continues, and
Yeah,
what happens to you in your life ultimately, unfortunately, doesn't have the biggest effect on those around us per se.
right.
The world keeps on going, things keep on moving, and
Mhm.
in turn, you have to
Yeah,
continue. You were a mother of two already.
yeah,
You were a wife. You were an associate at a job. Like, you still had
yes,
to do all of those things. And there's nothing that can prepare you for, like you said, to how to be able to do that
hmm,
back then. Now we have more people that are pursuing these type of things. We have people
right.
like yourself that are putting themselves out there and say, "Hey, this is what I went through.
Hmm.
This is what helped me. This is what didn't help me. This is what I wish that I knew back then." Hindsight 2020, I can look back and say, all right, these are the things that helped. These are the things that didn't. And you can now give that advice and be that support for somebody else. You
Right,
have your own personal experience to fall back on and be
right,
able to say, I know what you're going through. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're feeling. Don't go down this path, go
right,
down this path, or whatever.
right.
And I am so happy that there are people like you out there that are able to do that, because not everybody is able to turn things around like that. Some
Hmm.
people, everything that you were saying, everything that you're going through, everything that you have in your life is part of your identity. It's who
Right.
you are, it's how you see yourself. So when you have that dramatic change,
Hmm.
especially when you're not ready for it, you weren't prepared for it,
Yeah,
a lot of people can break. Not
yeah.
everybody just bends from that. Not everybody just is able to rebound from that. And unfortunately, there have been and probably will continue to be so many people that allow that to consume them to the point that they're not able to move forward. And what
Right,
that looks like for everybody is going to be a little different. But some people, that's if they choose to stick around. Some people choose not to. If they
right,
choose to stick around, that could be something that they now identify themselves as the person that carries that. That's who they are now. This is what happened to me, and I will always be the person that had that happen to me. Everybody's
right.
going to see it. Everybody's going to feel it anytime they come around me. That's part of my aura now, and
Mhm.
they're going to experience that whenever they have an experience with me. And again, I applaud you for being able to turn that into a positive, into
Thank
something
you.
that can not just help others, but I'm sure it helped you in a lot of ways be able to
Oh,
move past a lot of things, right?
it did. I mean, I wasn't always even able to talk about her
Mm-hmm.
without completely falling apart,
Yeah.
which always sat in me in a deeper level because the one thing I always wanted was for her to be known because she never left the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
She does, and I always say this, she never knew what this warmth of the sun felt like. She never knew what the gentle breeze felt like, or heck, a windstorm. She had no idea what the outside of a hospital felt like. She never was able to get outside. So, just having her story be known, even though it's 2 months and 16 days, she had purpose. Everybody
Right.
has a purpose.
Right.
And so for me, carrying her story and carrying her purpose and just what her short little life meant to me and what that did for me,
Mm.
how it guided me. And mind you, the month after she passed, the 5 years after she passed, even the 10 years after she passed, I didn't know that this is where I was going to be.
Right.
I thought I was going to be, I thought I was going to go into the medical field, to be honest. I thought I was going to be a nurse or a PA or a doctor or what have you. And I became a medical assistant for a little bit, and I kept thinking, and even the physician I worked for, you should go to medical school. You should do, and again, here's that person that you want to have in your life that says you should do this and you should do that.
Mm.
And I was good at what I was doing. It came very naturally to me, but I think it was also momming. You kind of, okay, listen, take care of this, do that, and you just go into that. It was second nature to me.
Yep.
So, but and I always held it as a regret that I never went to medical school. I never went to nursing school or pursued becoming a PA or, any of the things. I always said, when someone asks you, what's your regret? That was it. And then
Yeah.
I sat down with myself and I life coach myself. I tell everybody too, I was my first client.
Ooh, I love that.
And yeah, and I just said, okay, in any of those roles, would I be able to sit and or tell somebody, your daughter has XYZ, your daughter has passed, and I wasn't even able to think it without crying. So
Mm,
how would I be that medical professional that needed to be the strength in the room to tell them how to get through those moments? And then I said, okay, I need to stop saying that that's a regret. It's not a
mm,
regret. It was part of my journey to get
mm,
here. Because then I need to be able to tell that story. I need to be able to share with people. It can feel like the best thing that's going to happen to you. But, when I say to my clients, try on that profession, and they kind of look at me like, I don't have it's not a coat. What are you talking about? And I said, well, what do you think a nurse would do? And I said, if you're not a mom, you need to clean up some stuff that comes out of people. And,
yeah.
do you like that? No. Then don't be a nurse, because that's where they start. They don't always only do that, but that's where they'll start. And, you'll have midnight shifts. Try staying up all night and then,
Mm.
running around all day. Like the daytime energy needs to translate into the night. See how that feels. And I don't want to do that either. Okay, let's try on another hat.
Right,
you
right.
know, how about, social work? If you want to stay within the medical field, there are other avenues that you can pursue, and I've even had a nurse as a client who it was backbreaking for her, and she didn't realize how bad it would be for her back, literally back breaking.
Mm,
So she needed to change into, what am I going to do? I wasted all this time. I wasted education and, my knowledge. I've been doing, I think she was doing it at that point, 6 years, somewhere in there. So, it's
oh, wow.
not a whole lot, but still, 6 years. And then that's not even including education and, all those things.
Right.
So, and I said, well, can't you turn that into, like social work or psychology, or maybe you're just you can do the online referrals for, how you can call the nurse and talk to her about your symptoms.
Yep.
And she's like, oh, I didn't even think about that, and it was, but that's the patterns that I'll look for of, you don't really want to let this go and you are good at it, but there are other avenues that we can turn that into. Maybe it's more of a school nurse. We need a lot of those, and they
Right.
still do the clinical piece, but they do it at different schools, and it's not
Right.
necessarily one-on-one with the students, but you're still performing and taking care of people in that same vein,
Mm,
if you will, So just trying to get them there. Even I had a student who I just was having a conversation. It was just I can't even remember what setting we were in. And she was, you do so what are you doing? And who are you? What, kind of introduce yourself type thing. And she talked about how she was about to graduate with her undergrad. She was a senior. And then she was supposed to go on to being into medical school. I think she was a
mm,
psychotherapy student. And but she said, I don't, and because I'm a stranger, you can just turn to say, I don't really want to do that, and I won't tell her mom. The word
right.
won't get out,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a safe place. So she, I just don't want to I don't want to go to med school. It's just not what I thought it was. And now I have this full degree under my belt that I don't want to do anything with. I
Mm,
said, well, what do you want to do? Like my life coaching antenna went up. And she said, well, I really like drawing. And I've always liked it, but I can't. My parents don't think that that's going to be a safe job. It's not going to turn into this thing where she can take care of herself. And I said, why don't you become a medical artist then? Or, like where you would draw those pictures that they can't take a picture of. And, you just like, if before AI was AI, they can become like, they can do the 3D. I said, those books that you study and there's pictures of the heart or
Right.
the bones or whatever, you can do that. And she was like, well, how do I do that? I said, that thing that says illustrated by? Look up that person and then talk to your school about what that means and where I can go with that, and, turn it into those things. So you feel like you might be wasting some time. You feel like it's, oh no, detriment or like a regret. But you were supposed to do that and then take all your other little talents, put it together, and, do the next thing that you're supposed to do.
I love that. I love that. Oh man, so many people would benefit from having somebody like you in their life, because you're so right. When you're in it, it's so hard to see the bigger picture. It's so hard to see everything, all the different avenues that you can take. You kind of get that tunnel vision on this is what it is. This is what it's supposed to look like. And it's not looking like that. So I don't know what to do. And you start getting
and a panic, and a panic, and a panic. Yeah.
Right. And the time is being wasted. I'm already at this age, at this point in my life. And especially when you play that comparison game with others, you look at somebody else and they're so accomplished and established at this age and they've done this, that, and the other thing. I'm not even close to that. I don't even know if I want to do this. It's like, well all right, well, calm down. Hold on. Slow it down a little bit. Yeah, right. First breathe.
Because now the first thing you're going to do is pass out. But, okay, hold on. Yeah. And
then you can't do anything.
Now we're practicing on you. Bringing you back to life, kind of thing.
No, I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, because I was always, and that's where I feel like if I had a me in my life when I was younger, because I always knew what I didn't want. I didn't know what I wanted for dinner, but I know I don't want that,
Right.
And they would, well, then what do you want? That doesn't help me. As a kid, when someone said, well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. Like the pressure turned up to a 10 real quick when someone said that. I can just tell you what I don't know. That's the only thing I knew.
Right.
And I just didn't know how to like turn that in. Because some people, you ask them what they want. Oh, I want to go here and I want to do that. And, here, like this is all the things I want to do. And I was never that kid. I knew exactly what I didn't want to do. And it was more fear-based than it was decision-based. So sometimes that's where I start with my clients is the, okay, well, what are you afraid of? And why are you afraid of it? And it's more where they're comfortable in. So we talk about the fears. Okay, you're afraid of failing. Okay, write it down. And I don't want to write it down. Because if you write it down, it comes true. Okay, write it down. You're already fearful of failing. So it's already true. Write it down. So, they'll write that down and then, well, I'm afraid that, and that's, they don't have another thought. That's it. That's the one that fills the room every single time. I'm afraid of failing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that too. What role does fear play in people's, either doing what they're trying to do or not doing, staying in the wrong career or life path? How common is it that fear is the biggest obstacle for people?
It's usually the thing.
Yeah.
Because when we do this exercise, okay, write it down. And well, I don't want to say that I'm afraid. You just did. And look, the world kept spinning. We're still talking.
It's like,
you're still breathing. You're still not taking the step towards, whatever it is you want to be. All right. So we're past that. Now what's next? And when you realize that you're already in there and nothing bigger, better, there's not volcano coming from the sky and, fire breathing dragons are spinning around. Like none of that's happening.
Right.
So if that's the worst that it is this, you've already lived through it. How long have you been doing this? Years, days, moments. Maybe you just realized it. Okay. So what can we do next? What else are you afraid of? Like, okay, we've established you're afraid of, failure. We're not doing anything. So that in it of itself is failing to go forward, right? And do the next thing. So what if we just had a conversation about you becoming a doctor? Let's just talk about it.
What does
Are you
that
afraid
look
of the
like? Yeah.
tests? Yeah, and
Mm.
okay, so maybe you just need to learn how you need to study, because not everybody, has a one way to study. It's
Right.
not, you can't just memorize what's in the books, or we're not just regurgitating, right? You want to
Mm-hmm.
feel what that is. So ask the questions, so learning how to study might improve that situation. Are you afraid of not being accepted into the medical school? Okay, but there's thousands, hundreds, or something, I don't really know, but,
Right.
we
Right.
can figure it out. One says no, find others. There's
Mm.
going to be someone that'll say yes. It might take a little longer because, they can only say no so many times a year, right? So then that prolongs it. So, all right, so we wait. We figure out why they said no and we change it from there.
Mm.
So there's no time frame that says you have to be a doctor tomorrow, because that won't be,
Right.
So if that's just how you want to, or maybe you just don't want to wait. Okay, well, let's figure out what that then will be, and it, maybe in the meantime you work in the hospital, because maybe you don't like to work in the hospital.
Right. Right.
Maybe it's there's not enough windows.
Yeah.
You need
Right.
sunshine, because some people have diagnosis associated with not getting enough sunshine, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
that just rules that out. But you know trying things on, or saying things, and working out what they're fearful of, that in and of itself can help us decide what to do next. And I can see where the pattern is. And they start to reroute themselves, if you will, as
Right.
they recognize, I didn't really know I was doing that. I never even thought about, well, I'm not moving forward to succeed towards what I want to do. So I'm actually already in that place. So if I just did, the the working in the hospital, then maybe I'll be able to figure out what's a good next step, what will
Mm.
suffice, and what will get me through for the moment. So,
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to be able to say the thing or write it
yeah.
down, like you said, to kind of work through that. Oh, maybe this isn't what I wanted, or I didn't realize that I was doing that. That was kind of self sabotaging me from and
Right.
preventing me from taking those necessary steps forward.
Hmm.
My buddy Kyle that I get on here all the time, we talk
Yeah.
about being at A, looking at Z, and getting lost or overwhelmed with everything in between. So we're trying to come up with a program that's all about the B through Y.
Yes.
Taking breaking things down step by step, not looking at all the way down at Z and seeing everything else and being like, I don't know, I don't. It's like, no, don't worry about
Yeah.
that. You're at
Yeah.
A. What does B look like? Let's look at
Yes.
B, because sometimes you could, yeah, that picture at the very end looks great, but you
Hmm.
get to, step K, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like this. I don't want to do all these things that it requires. Okay,
Yeah.
well, now, like you said, let's reroute a little bit. and,
Yes.
and sometimes you don't even realize, like as you were saying, sometimes you don't even realize that you're already kind of on this other path, heading
Hmm.
in this other direction. You just weren't looking over there. You were
Right.
looking over here the whole time, and you're walking into all these things and you're wondering why. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, look at where you're heading. Look at
Yeah.
this direction instead of over there, and look at all these other aspects that you have going on for yourself that you're actually
Hmm.
good at. You can apply
Hmm.
that to this over here, not that over there, because you're looking at, yeah, that big, you're looking at that destination, but you're not looking at what it's going to take to get there.
You're
And
diluting your
you,
energy.
right, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So I love that. I love the way that you say, let's write it down.
Yeah.
Let's write down our fears. Give it a
Hmm.
name. I was
Hmm.
listening to this podcast. I believe it was Jay Shetty, and he was talking about, give your fear a name, give your what it is that you're upset about,
Hmm.
whatever it is that you have going on, say it. Yeah,
Hmm.
write it down if you have to. One of the exercises that we actually started doing, my wife and I, on New Year's Eve, is writing down all of the things that we want to let go of, all the things that we want to leave in the past, all the things that we don't like, all the things that the negatives that we have, the fears that we have. Write them down, and then we throw them in a fire. We have a nice big bonfire in the back. We'll throw it in there. But writing it down, getting it out there, instead of just having it be this thing that's festering inside of us that, we're only looking at it from this one angle because we have our own internal dialogue, and that's only one point of view. So if you can actually verbalize it with somebody or write it down, you can kind of, it does give life to it, but you can also see it for what it is. And then it makes it easier to move past it, as opposed to it just being that internal giant wall that you can't get past, right?
Yeah. My husband and I have a should list. So anytime we say, oh, we should do this, or we should go here, we should eat there, we should try that, we write it on the list. And we can see. So when we say, oh, what are we going to have for dinner? Or where should we go for dinner? Go to the should list, because there's so many should places that we should be going to. So, and you get to start marking it off the list. And then you start to realize, I don't really like that kind of food. Let's not ever put that on the should list, and then, so now our should list has become for food, because between the two of us, we're like, I don't know what I want to eat. And how many couples out there go through that, right? So, but also we have a travel list. I always wanted to, and that's where we write those things down. So I've always wanted to go to Greece. We went there last year. Always wanted to go to Barcelona. Wrote that down. So when you name a country, okay, but where in the country? Okay, so it was roads.
Be specific with it.
And we went to Lindos in Greece, and we went to Barcelona in Spain. We went to 4 different countries in Italy because we wanted to go to Italy. So when we write big, we go small. And I would say I'm not a fan of vision boarding for this very reason. Because everybody leaves with the perfect husband, the house, the car, all the big
It's never going to
Z.
look the way that you see it. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's all Z level visions.
Right.
Okay, but you don't even have an A. Do you have a job? Like, how are you going to get the perfect car in the house if we have no finances? Like, I don't mind the big goals, but could we start narrowing it down so it becomes...
Break it down a little bit, yeah.
It becomes a doable list rather than, well, I did that in January. By March, forget it. I hate my job. I don't want to do that. All the things come out.
I don't even want to go over there.
Yeah. And you want to lose 50 pounds, but we keep going to the date night list instead of, walking a mile a day or what have you. But I like to live in the I guess I would say A through D, to just start. Because once you get to the 4th piece, you realize, oh, I can do this. And then it just becomes breathing, because now you don't doubt yourself anymore. Like, you don't have to do any extra work to take away all the negative thoughts. You just have to start doing. But you need someone to help. And some people need someone to help see where it is you can do.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because again, and bringing it back to the fear aspect of things, so many people are afraid to even go from A to B.
Right.
They look at Z, but okay, let's break it down. How do we get there? Let's start at B. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. And it's like, well, you can. Yeah. All you have to do is this, or all you have to do is that. And it's so much easier for somebody that's on the outside looking in to be able to say, no, move over here. Go this direction. You don't have to go that direction. There's a giant wall there. Go over here, and you can go around that giant wall, or whatever the case is.
And so many people don't even realize that they're already on K, or step 3, or 7, or 18, because they're so worried about the end goal. They don't recognize everything they've done to get halfway through, or a quarter through, or 3/4 through. Sometimes it's just pull the trigger and you're done. You just don't know until someone comes in and grabs all the things and puts it in front of you, and then the puzzle comes together, because you start putting those pieces together. Like, to look at my life, by everything that's happened, there's nothing in there that says you should be a life coach. But once I was my own first client, and I pulled
I
it all
love that.
together. I was like, this makes so much sense. Why didn't I do this sooner? And because everybody always used to say to me when I was coaching, and didn't even realize that that was what I was doing, but they would always say, you should do that for a living. What's that?
Do what?
There was no name. And the people that were telling me to do it didn't even know what it is, but they would kind of point at me and go, do that thing that you're doing, do that. But what is that? Like, and
Yeah.
when I was in a corporate role, so well, maybe that's HR. Like, what is this?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you think it's a manager position and you do all those things, but it's really something outside of that, encouragement. And then I thought it was becoming a mom, because then that's all I was doing when I was
Right. Right.
parenting them full time.
Yeah.
And then it was, with their friends, and their parents would say, you should do that. Somebody tell me what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. What is
And
that? You keep saying that.
yeah, so, the importance of a name, the importance of why that's, the strongest thing that you can do for yourself. Name it, write it down,
Hmm.
all those things would be, it's just a great first step.
Yeah. I love that. Because I wanted to ask you too, what is the first step in helping someone who feels completely stuck, like they don't even know what they want to do with their lives?
I have questions that I ask, and some
Kind
of
of
it feels
probing.
like, yeah, and some of it feels like, why are you asking me this? I don't know, and I said, well, write that down. And there's something that happens when you can see how many things you don't know about yourself.
Mm.
That,
Mm.
and we start to just everything I don't know, and then they throw up their hands, and okay, let's just break this down. And then when you're asked kind of a broad question, I don't know, but when someone asks you a pointed question, you know exactly what it is. Do you like
Mm.
spicy food? No. Okay, take out that category. Do you like
Mm.
chicken? Yes. So you can write down chicken. So at least that much. And then we work from what we know. And sometimes if they're like, well, I don't like this, and I hear a lot of negative, that's where I start. Okay, what else don't you like? And I start writing all the negative things they don't like. And then whatever's not on that list, well, how about you try this? Well, it's not on this list. You didn't say you didn't like it, so we can try this. Well, and sometimes it's an exercise in shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of thing. Anytime you say the word I should, write it down in your book. Then the
Mm.
next time we get together, I can see all the things that they should or they want to do or they desire to do. And it tells me a little bit something about that. And it's creating the patterns, creating the where everything is kind of coming together. What's the common denominator in
Mm.
all the things that they don't like and all the things that they do like? In just easy questions, Do
Right.
you like to color? Yeah. Okay. And it makes no sense. It's perfectly random,
Yep.
but it's perfect.
Yeah.
So you like to color. Okay. What are the things that you can do that, requires coloring? Maybe be someone who makes maps. I don't know what it's called, but let's figure it out. And we'll go
Right.
down that route,
A
right?
mapologist.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Map genius. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
Or
awesome.
maybe you go work for Google Maps or, Waze or something having to do with that.
Right.
But just because you like to color, my children are both colorblind, so that wouldn't work out for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are
So,
the odds?
I know. Well, I'm the common denominator, so we
Ah,
both ended up colorblind. It's interesting. I've
yeah.
never met anybody else that all their children are colorblind, but
Yeah.
it also helps me think outside of the box because nothing I do
Right.
is color dictated. Because you tell somebody go down the street, take a left at the green this and the red that, and
Right. Right.
get me the blue jacket. Well,
Yeah.
when they don't know or see colors, you can't give them that
You got
direction.
to find a new way of going
Yeah,
about that. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
So even like PowerPoint presentations,
Mm.
everybody likes to make all these colors and highlight everything. Well, for one of my children, when you highlight things, it disappears. They can't see it on the screen.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you want to if you want to lose that part of your audience, okay. But
Yeah.
maybe simpler is better. And,
Yeah.
also in this realm, simpler can be better for starting with somebody who just doesn't know. Okay, well, what have
Mm.
you done? What are the jobs that you've had and why didn't they work out? And just figuring out why those things didn't work out helps me too with the industry or the type of job it was,
Mm.
or if do they need a behind the desk job or not? Or do they need the kind of job that they just go check in and then they check out and they can do all the other creative things? Because I think sometimes part of the misconception is I need my job to be my passion. And it's just not true.
Right.
You know, your job can simply be what provides you the money to then go and do something you're passionate about,
Right. Have
you
that
know?
balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Because your life shouldn't end at 5 o'clock. It should be, maybe you go volunteer and color with kids, at some rec center or something like that, and you can,
Mm.
but that wouldn't pay you, right? Someone will allow you to come in and sit with kids and, do all the creative things that you want to do. And maybe that can turn into something, but that's maybe your avenue to break into there. But in the meantime, you got to eat.
Yeah. Right.
So you,
Right.
you got to keep checking in and checking out. And that can be enough, right? Maybe you love running. Some people, like, elite athletes can be paid to be a runner, go to the Olympics and do all those things. But other people, maybe that's just something that you do outside of your 8 to 5. And, you run on weekends, you participate in marathons, and the 8 to 5 will pay for the marathons. And that gives
Right.
you enough passion filled moments in your life that you feel fine, you
Right,
know?
absolutely. It gives you something to look forward to work
Yeah.
towards, and then
Yeah.
you get that. Yeah, because I mean, if you can find a job or a career that you're passionate about and it
Hmm.
brings you joy, great.
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that have that in life.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
don't. There's a very select few that I know that are just so happy with what they do for a living, but most aren't. And you're right.
Yeah.
I think that also becomes a part of our identity. Well,
Hmm.
I do something that I don't enjoy doing, and that's my life. It's like, well, no, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to. Give it
Yeah.
purpose by having that, like I said, that balancing act of give it
Hmm.
purpose because it's fueling what you do like to do in life,
Yeah.
what you do enjoy and look forward to. Have it
Yeah.
feed that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that other aspect of life, yeah, all you do is you feel like you're a slave to somebody else, and then that's it. That becomes a part of your identity, and
Hmm.
that's a sad, unfulfilling life.
Yeah.
So again, the way society is set up, for us, a lot of us, that's how it is. We got to go do something that we don't want to do. But
Yeah.
again, have that balance in life to give yourself purpose. Because that's what a lot of us are looking for, right? Is to have a purpose in life. Well,
Yeah.
what am I doing this for? Well, if you're not doing it, if you're a husband or a wife and a parent, you're doing it to feed your children, to put a roof over
Right.
their head, to put clothes on
Right.
their back. That is part of your purpose. If
Hmm.
that's not enough, and some people it's not, and that's
Hmm.
completely fine. Some people
Yeah.
need more in life. So it's not selfish to try to go and find something that does bring you that type of joy for yourself. Like you said, if you go enjoy running, go be a part of a marathon. Find out,
Right.
who's doing, triathlons or marathon, whatever.
Yeah.
Go and look for something that will feed that.
Hmm.
If you enjoy coloring, go
Yeah.
find an after school program where kids just hang out after school while they're waiting for their parents to come pick them up, and you can color with kids. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something that you can do that will give you that type of feeling, that self-fulfilling and purpose feeling that you're looking for. And a lot of times it's just that little bit. You just need that little bit of advice. You need somebody like you that is
Yeah.
going to kind of, all right, pull back a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
look at the bigger picture here. All right, you like this. Let's see what we can do for that. I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. I love your approach, your mindset towards what you do. Again, being able to feed off of your own life experiences and turn it into a career, and
Hmm.
not just something that is giving yourself purpose and being self-fulfilling in that regard, but you're helping other people find their purpose in life too.
Yeah.
So I am so glad that we had this conversation. I'm so glad that
Me
there are
too.
people out there like you that are doing the things that you're doing. More people need to do that with themselves. More people need people like you in their lives to help them do things like that. So,
Yeah.
Jessica, I thank you so much for coming on
Thank you,
here.
Sean.
We didn't even cover half the questions that I had, but I love the conversation that we had. I wouldn't change it
Yeah.
for anything. So maybe we can do this again sometime.
Yes,
Um,
please. This was
before
a
we
lot
jump
of
off,
fun.
this was great. I could keep on
Yeah,
going too,
I
but
know.
before we jump off, if you could let people know, anybody that wants to reach out to you, get involved in what you have going on, or seek help, where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
The easiest place is on my website at JJ1PC.com. I'm on Instagram as well at JJ1 Professional Coaching. Or heck, get a hold of Sean. Let me know.
Yeah, yeah, reach out to me. Absolutely. I have no problem being that middleman because
Yeah.
again, I love what you're doing. I love your approach towards it. I love your mindset and how you go about it. So I would love to help anybody that's looking to get involved. I will absolutely be that middleman. Reach out to me and we'll make it happen for sure. Jessica, thank you again so much. I'm
Thank you.
so glad that we were able to do this. And
Yes.
yeah, we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yes,
So
it was fun.
absolutely. So again, thank you. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.